and now there's her, my other gal is coming in with her horse. So because of the stress in her mouth, see that stress? That's all stress. That's emotional stress. Expectations of what's going to be asked of her. So I'm going to take my thumb, and I'm going to put my thumb in her mouth, and I'm rubbing the roof of her mouth. And I'm just creating awareness. I'm changing her perception of what's going on here. I'm not trying to stop her from shaking her head. I've got a feel on the halter shank. I have a feel in her mouth here. I can go rub around and monkey around here. There. I'll just leave. I'd like her not to snap at me. I'll just let her sit on that for a moment. So you'll see me and see she's kind of nibbling at me again. This is another thing horses will do when they're all turned out together, is they'll nibble on each other and fiddle fart around like that, do things with each other. But we don't want horses chewing on equipment. We certainly don't want horses chewing on people. I heard the other day that a horse bit somebody, and the reason the horse bit is because the owner was standing on the left side, horse is in cross ties, person on the other side that's assisting went to reach underneath like that to hand somebody a piece of equipment, and the horse just nailed him, and it was a hard bite. Okay, so I'm just going to ask her to back up. Yeah. There you go. You hear how I say that word? And that's pretty much, now I'm going to ask her to stand. That's pretty much one of the few words that I use for horses. And I'm not going to have her lunging. I'm going to ask her, now because she just went sideways, I'm just going to yield that hip and ask her to come to me. This is all part and parcel. I want you to square up to me. There you go. Good girl. I want you to pay attention. I'm going to just give her a little bump here. Ask her to pay attention. So, we want to be able to get these horses to have longer and longer attention spans. We want them to not be so concerned if there's a horse in the arena or not. If there's a horse that was in the arena and then it leaves. A lot of horses lose their minds when that happens. So I asked her to go sideways. She went sideways really well. Do you see the stress in her face there? A lot of stress. Okay? A lot of stress. So I'm just going to ask her to step sideways the other way. Get over. That's another word that I use. Get over. Get over. Get over. That's it. Get over. So because she did that so nicely, took a few tries, but that's okay, because she's trying. Like this little horse has great expectations of doing things wrong and getting into a whole lot of trouble. And my hope is that we can avoid that. Now I want her to go back over here. So I don't want her to go ahead. I want her to step sideways. I don't want her to back up. So I put a little feel. I don't want her to step forward. I want her to go sideways. I'm going to yield that hip. Bump her just a little bit here. I'm going to back up, give her a little space so she can move her feet, get perpendicular to me. She doesn't want to do that, so I'm just going to disengage that hind end. Here. Don't move. So she went to the photographer there, They're kind of crowding the photographer. She's going to get ready to paw here pretty quick. And when I first started working with her, I had about 10 minutes that I could actually spend some time doing something with her. And then if I stopped and I stood, because I was actually done, I couldn't stand and have a conversation with somebody. I'm just going to try to yield that here. Now, I don't know if you folks watching this can see anything. There's a tarp on the ground there, and the reason is because we're going to do water jump training with the other horse that just came in the arena. I don't want to work this filly on plastic today. I took the rail that will go over the plastic for the jumping horse. I put it on the ground path. But that's bothering her because she knows it's there. And she's saying, if you're going to ask me to go over that, I'm going to have a bit of a meltdown about that. And I said, no, that's for another day. Don't worry about that. So I don't know if you noticed, but she just quit being so anxious. So I'm just going to ask that hip to yield away again. I don't want the front end to go out and around me. I want it there. Okay? Here's a big sigh. And she's saying, there's that thing there. And I said, yeah, I know that thing's there. That's okay. So part of what I'm doing right now is I'm giving her an opportunity to look at that and see it. And I'm also letting her know that she doesn't have to interact with it. Yeah. You might choose to, but you don't need to. So here's the rail I was telling you about. I'm just going to let her see what she's going to do with that. So now, that's very interesting because she just went sideways to that. I worked her over a rail for several minutes yesterday. There. Now what she really wants to do is kind of come up here and knock this jump box over. She wants to get herself distracted. And for her to step sideways to that rail like that, see how she's fiddling with that? So she's got a lot of expectations about what she's going to be asked to do. And she's setting herself up to say, I don't want to do any of that. So we have to be so careful about how we work these horses. Think about yourself being a little kid, and somebody wants you to do something that you're just not real super keen on doing. Get over. So you kind of want to see if you can't make a game of it. You want to see if you can't avoid jamming it down their throat. Can you get your butt over? I noticed this filly, it's been cold. This last week I wasn't feeling too good and I didn't get here. And usually we give them a feed before we start, and then we give them another feed after we start, and she's been missing those. And I noticed she's lost her little condition. So, well, you never know if what you're doing is doing something good. There, did you see how she just started to step sideways there? And she backed up a little bit, so her hind feet aren't going to have to cross over that rail. But I'm pretty sure that she can step this front foot here over that rail. So this is going to be a jumping horse. She's already been jumping. But she's probably not got the eye-hand coordination stuff down there to know you just jump what you're going to jump because somebody expects you to do it, but it doesn't mean that you really. So she touched that rail with her foot. That's a great thing to do. Now she knows it's there because she can't really see that. So now, if you look at her feet, see, she could pick that right front foot up again, but she's standing on it. She's weight bearing on that. Okay? And you know that because if you look at the right hind, you see she's resting the right hind. And that's not because there's anything bothering her physically, it's because she's a little tense emotionally. So I'm just going to ask her to take her hip over to the right. You don't need it. There you go. So now, if I move her over towards the photographer a little bit, she'll move her front feet so she doesn't have that right foot up against that rail. It's pretty hard to stand on a foot and pick it up at the same time. So, and